Hello, YouTube. This is Shon, the Divine Diva, coming at you with my NACA Journey Reboot update video number 6. And in this update, I'm sharing with you what happened when I attended my purchase workshop this past Thursday. When I last spoke with you, I just received my qualification status and received the email invitation to attend the purchase workshop. And so once you attend the purchase workshop, you're able to move forward with obtaining either a NACA in-house realtor or an outside realtor. I have opted for an in-house realtor, and so I'm now waiting for feedback from NACA on whether or not a realtor services my area. I do live more than 2 hours away, and so my preference is to have an in-house realtor primarily. But if for some reason that's not possible, then I'll locate an outside realtor. If you opt to do an outside realtor, they do have to do, like a workshop, a NACA workshop to get familiar with the NACA process because it does differ from the traditional pathway. So the NACA in-house realtors, those are basically, they refer to themselves as NACA Red, the real estate department. And so your NACA real estate agent represents us, in all the matters regarding the purchase of a home. They'll make sure we're informed throughout the process. They'll make sure, that we have the information that we need on the home. And when the person is an in-house realtor, for sure, they're going to facilitate the internal discussions that are necessary to get us through this process. So one of the main points they pointed out regarding the NACA Red department is that they're prohibited from asking us for fees because their payment is exclusively from the seller's part of the closing on the purchase. They can show us homes, we can take our time, and the recommendation is that we look at least 10 properties that's within our market, making sure um, that we're not making snap decisions. And personally, I know I've been looking already a long time, so I'm pretty solidified in my mind with what I like, but I know things can change as you begin to go into some of these homes and start making comparisons. And so they encourage that, make lots of comparisons. And then to NACA Red, in advocating for us too with sellers as a part of this process. And that was a major benefit that I see that if I have an in-house agent, they really have a full understanding of NACA and can fully advocate on my behalf as a buyer. Another important component of their job is that if for some reason the property that we select or viewing requires repairs, they can help to negotiate that type of situation with the sellers, perhaps get it included in the mortgage, and also help us identify contractors in the case that we opt for um, repairs. Now personally, I'm not interested in a rehab project. I'm not. I think I have enough projects going on in my life right now. And so I'm not interested in a long, drawn out situation. However, I think it's awesome that if you do have a rehab or, your home needs certain repairs, that can be folded into the loan as long as it still falls within the affordability. But, as a client, we basically have the option of saying, whether or not we want to see a home. We don't have to feel pressured. And the real estate agents really was just emphasizing the fact that they are working with us and for us. And so it is to our advantage. In any case, if I'm unable to get an in-house realtor, though, please know I'm going to be scoping out my local area. I have a short list of individuals. And like I said, only one that I know of has had experience with NACA. And so I haven't reached out to that individual yet, trying to give NACA a chance. Hopefully, I'll hear something by Monday. That's what we were told on Thursday night, that if you opt for in-house, you should get some feedback by Monday. So I'm going to give it to Monday, close of business. Okay. which is tomorrow. So these are just some of the components. So in addition to discussing the role of the real estate agent, whether they were internal or external, once we've made that selection, we enter into an agreement with the realtor. It's called a buyer representation agreement. And it's basically the contract that outlines the relationship that I just described, what their duties are, what our duties are as, as a buyer. And that term is generally a 6-month term, but we can terminate at any time for any reason. There's no penalty. Maybe we feel like the realtor is not, being accommodating, or, basically we want to change. And so there's no fees or deposits, and they're paid by the seller when the home is purchased. So, I mean, hey, give it a shot. So also the in-house realtors, let us know about any conflict of interest if there's an issue with the payments. So they're skilled at this process. And I think this part is particularly important to me, um, too, because I've observed in some of the forums and groups where maybe individuals have agreed to additional terms or clauses within a contract, and it's causing problems or more money. And there are things that maybe NACA has not um, made a part of the process. So it's kind of like an extra something that the seller has placed, and the buyer, you know, so excited or wanting the home is agreeing to things that are not necessarily kosher or to their advantage. So the realtor really, their goal, whether internal or not, is really to make sure that we're informed buyers. Okay. Another key factor of this workshop was about the home search piece. They just encourage us to do research, right? To look at the communities, check them out different times of day. I mean, I've always done that anyway as a renter. I would scope out a property in the morning, afternoon, on the weekend, when kids are out of school, just trying to see what type of neighborhood, how far is it, how much gas I'm gonna have to burn, things like that. And of course, some of these things you can look up online to find out, what the crime rate is like, property taxes and utilities, some of those things, so they're just encouraging us to be fully informed as we're looking at properties, the neighborhoods, and to understand the market. And so that aspect is where the real estate agency is going to be super helpful too, where they can pull reports and provide information regarding the market, what makes sense. Another home in the neighborhood sold for XYZ, things like that. How long has that house been on the market? And just being aware of some of the concerns you should have as a buyer. And also, if there's some advantageous situations that will work in your favor, you want your realtor to also help with that. One of the things that was particularly helpful was when they talked about, looking at the property. It's very exciting to look at the aesthetics, right? But I remember just listening to some YouTube videos a while back where one person talked quite a bit about like the bones, don't get so distracted. We love to look at the pretty and the shiny, and they have their place, please believe, but also just checking out the property for what it is and not glossing over anything that might be super important. And so they encourage us to use the property search diary that's in the workbook, in the purchase workbook. And so you print that out and you basically like you notate the property information, the date you went, what type of property, etc. And you rate the property, make a comment. And so in addition to that search form, which is like a log of places you go check out, they encourage us to use a property evaluation form. And that form, some of the components of that form really challenge you to figure out what are your must-haves, what are your deal breakers, things you don't want, um, things of that nature. So they encourage us to make copies of that form to use it for each property. And then, just kind of continue to look at those forms throughout the process, um, to kind of adjust and manage our expectations, right? So, all right, I want tray ceilings. Well, do I really need tray ceilings? Or is that a deal breaker if it doesn't have tray ceilings, things like that. But when I think about, some of the feedback from the videos that I watched when a person talked about the bones, has she been distracted in some of the homes because maybe it had ugly carpet or the paint was horrible, but actually it was a good property and she can put on a coat of paint, right? Throw down a new tile. But the bones of the property itself, it had everything that she needed. And so I remember thinking about that aspect of it. And I saw that kind of as a trend in several videos that I've been watching for the last forever. Okay, so keep the property information with you, rate that property, and kind of look at it periodically so that you can really figure out what it is that you want. And for me and for anything, there's nothing worse than feeling like you settled. This is the largest purchase, or if not the largest, one of the largest purchases or investments that you'll ever make in life. So, we shouldn't feel pressured to, oh, I've already looked at 20 homes. I'm tired of looking, so I'm just going to take the next one. It's a seller's market. And so I will say there's definitely a sense of urgency required when we do see a property we like. And I just noticed that. And I'll look up at a property and I can tell, I'm like, okay, this was going to be under contract before the day is out. And I mean, that absolutely happens all day, every day. I know y'all see it too. But this workshop was also helpful because it was interactive. The presenter, Mr. Ransom, was pretty entertaining. But in any case, he, made it very fun and interactive, but also we were able to provide examples and interact in the chat. And some of the other things that were covered with him and the colleagues were the step-by-step process. So um, even in evaluating the properties and thinking about things, do the homework beforehand. This is where the realtor also comes into play in letting us know a little bit more about disclosures and how they work and the property conditions. And so those are things that we want to know before we make an offer on any type of property. So some people go through this process with a single family, for single family homes, but NACA does allow you to pursue multifamily opportunities. And so being aware of the changes or the differences between the type of property that you're trying to pursue, just keep that in mind and maintain the communication that if you're looking for um, a condominium or a multifamily versus a single family, there may be some additional considerations. So I like the timeline that they provided. Like if everything were absolutely perfect and NACA did not have such an overwhelming caseload and things of that nature, all things being ideal, the process would take roughly about from the time a property has been identified and the specific letter has been generated and entering into a contract, ideally, the process would take about 28 days, right? And so NACA has actually outlined what happens in those 28 days. And so I do love that because my brain thinks in checklists, bullet points, and processes. And so I'll insert that visual here. The 28-day process, man, I'm looking at it like that would be so awesome. But if I'm truthful, am I ready to pick up and like move all my stuff in exactly 28 days? Yeah, that's why I need to start packing now. I said that in my last video when I got qualified. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to start packing now. There's nothing worse than rushing through the process. But in any case, so the 28-day process covers from the time the contract is executed, going through what they call credit access, preparing additional documents, and getting ready, with your mortgage counselor, finalizing any types of negotiations and things on the property itself, whether it be repairs or move out days. And these are all things that, as participants, we would work with our MC and our realtor on going through this process. So again, going through credit access, going to the bank application itself, If there are some repairs or rehab needed, that will be an additional factor that could impact this timeline. And then too, once repairs are done, if needed, it does have to receive what they call hand approval. And the hand department is basically the one that makes sure all the repairs and conditions related to that are done. And so, and once those things occur, you start, scheduling that closing date. You get disclosures and acknowledgments and all the other agreements are put into place and you move into like a clear to close status. And once that happens, that walkthrough is scheduled. If there's any damage that's discovered in the walkthrough, you have to reach back out to hand, but if not, hey, keep it moving. But in any case, that is when when we are getting ready to do that walkthrough clear to close, that's when that the certified funds have to be, ready, keep your money right. Um, Make sure there's, no other issues as you approach closing. I thought probably the most I think all of it was good information for sure. And I have to go back through my purchase workbook and continue to read and be clear. But one of the things that I really like outside of the timeline, of course, I asked plenty of questions that we were able to, do some additional illustrations on the mortgage calculator that's on NACA's website. Um, but even in terms of the mortgage loan status, even though I just gave you that broad overview, they even broke down what actually happens in each phase of the mortgage loan process, like application, pre-decision, underwriting, approved, and closing. And they have it all broken down. Um, but the primary thing to remember were the points that they gave us regarding things that could be an issue to delay or decline the loan altogether during this process. Do not spend your minimum required funds. Yes, we're qualified. We can go house searching. Don't play with that money. Don't go on vacation. Don't spend no extra money. Don't quit your job. Don't buy a car, not increasing debt, not being late. Don't co-sign for nobody, for nobody. Um, don't make no repairs on a house that's not yours. I mean, if we're purchasing a home through NACA, we should not be making any critical repairs to, a rental property anyway or someone else's home. Don't ignore, stay in touch with your mortgage counselor, check your emails regularly, check your spam. I mean, I had messages that I didn't even realize I was getting, so I make it a point to go through my box and search for any NACA related information. And then if there's conditions or other things that are needed, just be responsive. I know it can be so frustrating having to submit and resubmit, but I go right back to my tips for, getting ahead is having the information readily available. So just be ready to respond. Keep your file up to date throughout this whole process. Keep uploading your statements, keep uploading pay stubs, and the same things we had to do to get qualified. We have to maintain that qualification status. And so keep that in mind. These are things that we have to keep in place to get through this process. Um, and then even when it comes to the housing portion itself, and we've selected a home and we have to get inspections done, it's so important to make sure we're using the NACA approved inspectors. These are things that were identified that cause delays and causes people's loans to get declined after they've gotten past, this point. And so keep your money right. Don't put no mattress money in the bank. Don't all of a sudden make these large deposits that you can't explain. Things like that were the things that they identified as, you know, things that are cause a delay. So I was like, mental note, no mattress money. So that's where I am with this process. Looking forward to the housing search. Still a little nervous, of course, because again, it's a big deal. It's a big decision. It's a big process, right? But anything worth having, it's just worth the work to get it done. So I'm mentally preparing myself uh, to wade through this water here. But I will put the link down below for the purchase workbook. And again, you don't really need that until you get qualified, but it doesn't hurt to see its public information. Um, I can't really think of anything else that really stood out for me personally because it is so much information. But, oh, I would say back to putting in offers. Do not put in offers. Don't even bother to go look at anything until you get with your real estate agent and your buyer's agreement, your buyer's representation agreement is uploaded. All of that needs to be done before you even go out looking at, properties and trying to make offers. Make sure your paperwork is uploaded. Okay. So this is Shon, the Divine Diva, thanking you for tuning in and for watching my NACA Journey Reboot video update. Take care and have a great day. Bye.